Hello, welcome to Salisbury, and today we're going to have a run on the brand new DLC from Just Trains, the Wessex Line extension. We're going to be taking the 0750 from Salisbury to Romsey. You can see in the background the famous Salisbury Cathedral, which I think has the tallest spire in England, I so believe. We're going to be driving the South Western Railway 158, so we'll open the doors first of all, and whilst we've got the front view in perspective, let's set the destination correctly to Romsey. And now let's set the cab up. We are the 0750, and we will be featuring Romsey twice. We'll be calling at Dean, Mottisford and Dunbridge, then Romsey again, going a little bit of a square route if you look at the map. Redbridge, Millsbrook, Southampton Central, St Denis, Swathelane, Southampton Airport Parkway, Eastleigh, Chandler's Ford and Romsey. It's a full run. It's always nice to get a full run done on Train Sim, and always quite exciting when it's a brand new add-on. I don't know massively a lot about this run and this route, but we'll see what it's like, and I'm sure it'll be modelled beautifully because it's a game being done by somebody who really does know this line locally. Well, we've got the go-ahead from the guard. He's a little bit keen, isn't he? Got a few miles to go before our first stop at Dean. Worth noting as well, we've got a single yellow as we depart Salisbury. If you were very eagle-eyed, you might notice on our thumbnail that we didn't have the... Oh, I haven't put the lights on, have I? That's a bit lazy. It's better. You might have noticed on the thumbnail that we didn't have the South Western Railway logo. I hadn't got the branding patch installed at that stage. It's been on before, of course. It's just one of those things that gets missed off occasionally, so that's now sorted. We are a two-car unit. There is lovely Salisbury Cathedral in the background. Can't say that I've ever been, in actual fact. Must pay a visit one day. Looks like a lovely area. It's a 75-minute run in total. See, we're already taking a little bit of a detour, which presumably is just the other side of this tunnel. Tells us quite clearly, Salisbury Tunnel Junction, nicely marked. Again, you've got a lovely scene there, haven't you, with the allotments and the houses. A lot of detail put into this. Laverstock Junction. Now, before you even consider buying this route, I believe it's £24.99. Don't know why I said believe it is, I know it is, that's what I paid for it earlier on. But you need the Dovetail Games Southampton to Bournemouth route to make this run, and that's still included as part of the route as well. We will be going through a little section of that when we go through Southampton Airport Parkway and Eastleigh and Southampton Central. The excuse that I don't know the route, but I should have spotted that we were coming down to 35 mile an hour for this very sharp bend. Some of the other scenarios that are in there, I think we've got part of a cross-country work into Manchester Piccadilly. There's a Portsmouth to Cardiff working, and was it Salisbury to Brighton, something along those lines. But again, you're only doing bits of it. So this was the scenario. There's a couple of them doing this full run, one in each direction, that really caught my eye. Still see Salisbury Cathedral in the background. Standard Just Trains track textures, which looks pretty nice. Apologies when you see the same bit coming up, but Occasionally I just press the F2 instead of the F3. Need to get a keyboard where the function keys show a bit more visibly. See the proper cable trunk in along the left, that's a certain sign of a just strange route. It's a little, it's not a mobile phone mast, some sort of communications mast anyway. Quite a while to build up speed. In theory, go up to 90 miles an hour in this 158. We're just under 3 miles away from our first stop at Dean. While since I've driven the 158, and you kind of have to familiarise yourself a little bit with the braking. I think it's got pretty decent brakes as I recall, but we are going at quite a speed. I've done it again, haven't I? Apologies. Again, when you're not quite familiar with the route, you're sort of a little bit more cautious, because I think I just about catch sight of the platforms ahead. And again, you're not quite kind of familiar with the length of the platforms and the layout of the station. Dean. This is Dean, not a massive place by any stretch of the imagination. Very nicely modelled the station, the platform area, and you can see just all that little bit of detail that's gone in there. Slight sense of weathering on the roof as well. Does feel like a long stop, this, doesn't it? Mottisfont and Dunbridge is our next stop. One of those great English place names. It could only be a name in England, surely, that one. And beyond that, we'll take in Romsey for the first time. On level ground now, and you can see the difference, accelerating away a little bit more speedily this time. It's nice to see the telegraph pole there with wiring across as well. Sometimes it's just good to do different runs for different moods, and you might fancy a fast run, you might fancy a urban local run with a station every few yards, or a ride on the tube. This is a fairly fast but gentle ride through the countryside. I'm sure in real life, again, it's a lovely little run to ride on. It's maybe not a route I'll endlessly run end to end, but it's been nicely done. I'm very much looking forward to the next Just Trains Train Sim Classic route to come out, because that will be taken in the Buxton line, so we'll be able to do a full run from Manchester, Piccadilly to Buxton. If I'm totally honest, I'm really enthusiastic about that. See, the barriers are down for the level crossing. A bit of vegetation clearance going on by the looks of things. This is Ottisford and Dunbridge. So you can see that the barriers have lifted since we went past it. Romsey, the next stop, and of course that is our ultimate destination, but we've got quite a long way to go before our full destination. And on this particular route we're going to take in Romsey twice. Farm gates and crossings, and has to be managed very carefully and understood by those that can use them. There's another one. Oh, and rich farming country. The signal will be after Romsey station. So this is Romsey for the first time. Presumably we'll enter Romsey on the other platform when we come round it ultimately. Romsey is a little bit of a busier place. What I do know about it is it's where the Ruth Rendell Mysteries was filmed by ITV in the 80s and the 90s. I've no idea exactly how far we are away from the town. That looks a little bit more residential. Yeah, platform 2 we arrive at Romsey at 0907. Now if you play this scenario from out of the pack, it was set in foggy conditions, but I kind of felt, well, for a first run I really want to see it in absolutely lovely sunshine. So again, although I've applied full power, just a little bit conscious that we are going to soon be restricted down to 20 miles an hour across the junction. Only briefly. See, a lot of that scenery is fairly generic. But sometimes, if it suits the purpose, then that's all right. Another allotment, there must be quite a few in this neck of the woods. I think the man who started this, building this add-on, pretty much, it started out as a little bit of a fun project adding on to the Southampton Bournemouth route, It's turned into a little bit of a local hobby, bit of a project. And sometimes maybe thought, well, perhaps it'll just take a few weeks to add a little bit in, and then turns into a little bit of an obsession. One thing you do get, courtesy of buying this route, is an upgrade to the original 165, 166 that came out with the old Oxford to Paddington route. Massively in need of a upgrade. I think that was dating back to something like 2007. Now we'll know when we're on the proper Wessex Main Line, Waterloo-Weymouth route, because we'll notice the third rail, which of course prevails for that part of the route. I do have a full run possible on the old Waterloo to Weymouth route. There was a route brought out a few years back on UK Train Sim, which is long since gone, of course, and you can do a full run. It's a little bit lacking in some respects, but it covered such a lot of the route. A lot of the local lines around Waterloo as well. I'm getting a little bit carefully because we got a single yellow, of course, the last signal, so don't know exactly where this signal is and whether it's changed up in any way. I think it's still red. Passed by a Great Western Railway liveried 158. That looks pretty tidy. So we're clearly being held for something. We are going to get a little bit more interesting here. We've got the massive yards at Eastleigh. This is very nicely represented. So there's clearly a movement coming past along the main line there at some point. And looking at the timetable, we are a couple of minutes away yet, and you can see the estimated arrival time hasn't changed, so this is all part of the plan. Yep, here it is. That's electric. Is that a 450 or a 444? I think it's a 444, isn't it? So we should very soon get the road. Yep, there we go. See the first showing of the third rail. Again, a little bit generic, the cars, but kind of gives you the view. This huge collection of containers and the lifting equipment. We'll see a bit more when we get to the likes of Southampton and Eastleigh a bit later on in the journey. Not too far to go to Millbrook, the next stop. I think this is going to be one of those rides where keeping to time is going to be really straightforward. Not a tight timetable by any stretch of the imagination. We can see some 66s in the yard there, the Freightliner terminal. There certainly is plenty of possibilities for freight runs. All the yards very well presented. If I'm totally honest, I'd love to see an extension of the main Bournemouth Southampton route so that we could take it all the way back to Woking and then eventually have a standard of route up to this, so we could do a full Waterloo to Weymouth run in a really up-to-date version of the route. Again, we have to be mindful that that is single yellow, but it might well have notched up by the time we move off. Or step up as they call it. Not sure about that driving. It's supposed to be the hard shoulder. So if we were on the Bournemouth to Southampton route, then we would be heading from Bournemouth towards Southampton at the moment, because Southampton Central is our next stop, and then we're going to go on a bit beyond that, see a couple of stations after that, and then take on the Southampton Airport Parkway. And I think all that Freightliner stuff with all the cranes and that was going on back there, I think all that wasn't included on the original Dovetail Games route, certainly not to the standard that it's been done here. This is where you can get these little lapses of concentration, because I kind of completely forgotten that we left on a single yellow, so it was just as well that was another yellow, and we are signalled into platform 3 at Southampton Central. And I think this area's had a bit of an upgrade as well, thankfully. I don't know to what extent. I can't remember the original route that well. You can see all the docks and the waterways. Of course, Southampton absolutely huge in that respect in the background, and see one or two ships going on there. Are they ships? Yes, indeed. Occasionally the distant scenery can be a little bit deceptive. It can disappear and then reappear. But of course, this being a day one release, it's quite possible that there might be one or two things that Just Trains aren't totally happy with and release a patch somewhere down the line. Very rare that you get a route coming out and it's 100% perfect on day one. So, St Denis, the next stop. I've got a feeling that the St Mary's Stadium is not that too far away from here. I don't see it. Such a busy piece of railway, and this little narrow passage in between this heavily industrial area. I think the line to our right that avoids Southampton Central goes off right towards the docks. Aha! What was I talking about with St Mary's Stadium? That's Southampton's football ground, so yeah, that's good to see. I'm glad to see that there. depot. And it's good that even the tracks that were on the original route, we've got the retexturing going on, so it's a improvement in its own right just to have that. It's perfectly possible to do the full Bournemouth to Southampton and a little bit beyond in either direction by using this route. I'm sure there'll be plenty of scenarios created as well on this. As we come into St Denis. I was talking about it being very easy to keep to time. In fact, we're slightly a few seconds too late here. Hope it doesn't cost us the time, the scenario being completed. And it's slightly strange that a lot of these buildings that have been used, apart from the stations obviously, are Cuju buildings, and there are many, many more trains in the, or assets in the Just Trains common library. I'm surprised they haven't used a few more of those, but I suppose it depends when the upgrade to the route started and the bits that Dovetail Games have done. We did get a tick on there, so hopefully we are on target. Might be a few seconds late into Swatheley, our next stop. Again, I think if you know the route really well, then, and it's your local area, then you'll instantly know how well some of these little features have been captured. It was quite a bit of a stutter, wasn't it? The main, the route is running quite nicely as a cross-country service, of course. Manchester Piccadilly to Bournemouth is very much a regular service. I think you can more or less say this scenario's basically as though this is now. Maybe not the time of the year, but it certainly is how it is currently. Sometimes you'd say a route was set a few years back. So I've got a feeling even that building there, I've seen that somewhere before, I'm sure, so perhaps not a custom build, but it certainly looks the part. But the stations have been nicely done. Check the times on the go. So the next station will be quite interesting, Southampton Airport Parkway. I think you can actually see Southampton Airport. It's not one of these ones where it's miles away from the station. You can see the runway. Flashing single yellow tells us that the next one will be a solid single yellow, but I think before all that and before the turn away, well, it tells us on the bottom, doesn't it, Stoneham Junction, then we have the stop first of all. You can see the park and ride for the airport on the left, the multi-storey. That should do us. Aha, there we go, there's the airport. That's nice to see. And they're not kind of modelled in huge detail, but it's decent enough, and yeah, nice to see the lights they've got on the runway as well. Sometimes you almost get the feeling you're not going to get the buzzer from the guard, and you move away. Can be a bit hit and miss. So again, accelerating away fairly quickly, but with the knowledge that we've got the 40 mile an hour speed restriction coming up. Stoneham Junction. And I think we're kind of on the turn, as it were, in terms of the route. Yeah, let's centre the player. Yeah, I think we're going to take that turn to the left, I suspect, and then we're gradually heading back towards Romsey again. So we've only got Eastleigh, Chandler's Ford and then Romsey. Eastleigh, of course, a famous railway name in terms of the locomotive works. Yeah, we've got a Waterloo to Weymouth service there. Nice detail on the station. Good to see the other side of the station building sometimes, just check it's what you'd be expecting. Not bothered to put any car parking spaces there. I think we're in the closing stages now. I seem to recall arrival time was 0907, so penultimate stop coming up. And again, we're branching away now from the third rail electric lines. Can't get my words out tonight. you feel we're heading away from the hustle bustle of Southampton and Eastleigh and Millbrook and all the docks and the freight liner areas, and away back out into the distant countryside. You've got a bit of single line working as well. There are one or two freight workings as well that you can take in if you really like running freight services. We got away with that, or is briefly an emergency stop. Well, you can see here where this is obviously single track, but therein lies the tale of the old platform in days gone by, and obviously there was a second track there. I'm gonna speed this up. If I think it still works, does it? I've forgotten what the buttons are now. This is the async keys method, just to advance it. It would have been just quite a wait for us sat there for the whole time. There we are, and as if by magic, we're back into normal time again. So we're on the last 5 miles of the route. Well, what do I think of it? Well, it's been nice. I've enjoyed it. It's been a nice trundling, not massively fast journey. It's not city centre to city centre, and I think it's been nicely modelled, and clearly the route builders put an awful lot of effort into faithfully recreating the line. And the station buildings are very nicely done, and the scenery nicely captured, and all the things like the cable trunking, and it's all been done very, very neatly. Only criticism, I think in some places some of the scenery a little bit too much of the use of the original old Cuju assets. It would have been nice to have seen a few more thrown in from the Just Trains Common Library. Maybe that'll come in at a later time. If you're desperate to get the route, it's available from the Just Trains website at £24.99, and there is a nice sprinkling of activities to run with it. I think it's one of those that you can come back to from time to time. It's not going to provide hours and hours and hours of endless, massive excitement. And this is, again, just to repeat, one of the original scenarios that has come directly from the pack. I've just changed the weather because I didn't quite fancy running it a first run in foggy conditions. It's almost guaranteed now, the standard that Just Trains have set in the last few years, that it was going to be at least decent. The only thing that remains now is, have we got the path straight into Romsey platform 2, because I think we have a signal before then. There's no massively demanding climbs or descents. We've got to be kind of a little bit mindful because that was a single yellow. looks suspiciously like a red coming up. Ah, it's changed to yellow. Should route us into the station platform now. Got the clearance over the junction. Of course, we went the other way earlier on. So journey's end. So we're coming into Romsey station. Of course, we've already had a look at this first time around when we stopped here. And that completes our 75-minute trip on the first showing of the Just Trains Wessex Line extension that I've just purchased today. Hope you've enjoyed this nice sedate run. Let's bring things to a halt, open the doors. So there we are, that's journey's end. Hope you've enjoyed this train sim classic scenario. If you enjoyed the video and you wouldn't object, then please like and subscribe. I'd be really grateful for you to do that. So until next time, it's goodbye.